Wooden face. Fine face. Wooden face. Fine face.
And it gets your face like warmed up.
Super serious.
Where nothing fun or funny ever happens.
This is a super serious thing.
I don't even like dogs.
Super serious.
We often dance, just so you know, because there's always intro.
I mean, I'm pretending that there's music here. I could put some on.
Don't break the fourth wall. I'm just kidding. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Super Serious Dog Podcast. As you can tell, we have a super serious guest today. Joining us, she's currently in Maine, but she's from Boston. Hannalore Tice of Boston for the Dogs.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, ladies. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. So, icebreaker question. Because, once we start actually talking, I'm going to just forget and not ask.
This often happens with our icebreaker question. We end up asking it like way late in the episode. Like, by the way, let's break the ice now.
It's like when three ADD ladies get together and we have absolutely no idea what we're talking about anymore.
That's a fun time.
Awesome.
That's 100%. Okay, so you can decide if you want to list this for all your dogs or just one of them, but what would be your dog's favorite or least favorite chore? Like household chores, like think of like laundry and that kind of shit.
Well, nobody wants to do the laundry ever, right? Nobody, including the people I live with, meaning Corey.
Damn.
No,
Wow.
I know.
Called out. Shots fired, everybody.
I love him. No. Okay. So Marshall, what would his bad chore be or not chore? It would be like,
which one?
Marshall's my deaf, like special needs alien baby that lives in the jail that he breaks out of the jail and sleeps on the expensive couch instead. That one.
Right.
I don't know. This is hard. Mopping,
Okay.
vacuuming, right? Yeah.
Vacuuming's pretty therapeutic in my opinion, honestly.
So I think vacuuming is one of my favorite. I have 4 vacuums that I just rotate which one I use. It's super. I've been testing
name
out
them?
I might. I mean, they haven't earned names yet, but they will.
I just bought a new vacuum. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
What did you get?
I believe it's a Hoover.
Okay.
It was on sale. So I was like, on sale. It's usually like $150 and it's $50. Give me that. Give me that. It says it'll work great. We'll find out. I will put it to the test.
I have 4 sharks, so I'm a shark person.
You're a shark person. I had one of those for a long time. I broke it.
Yeah. I mean, they do eventually. We abuse them.
Yeah, I beat
hair.
the shit out of a vacuum. Like, so much dog hair in my life. Like, vacuum's got to be tough to live with me.
I literally, but I did try. I'm trying out the new Bissell Crosswave, which is a vacuum and a mop.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
So you vacuum first. So Marshall likes to make a mess, and that's why I chose mopping. Like a
poopy mess.
So he has like some sensory issues, and he likes to pee himself in his sleep. He walks. He's like a sleepwalker, like a frat boy, right?
So it's not like he's pissing in bed.
Yeah, like frat boys. I've seen this happen. Yes, unfortunately, they get up and they pee in a closet or something, and they don't know that.
I'm familiar
that's
with
Marshall.
this behavior. Yeah.
Same.
So that's Marshall. So I just was like, fine, I'm going to buy you your own fucking vacuum, and I vacuum and then I mop every day. And he's like, thanks, Mom.
That's so funny.
Wow. So I have tile. Would that work on tile? Do you think?
So
you could use sometimes.
It is a real bitch, but you could use a steamer mop on the tile.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning into the Vacuum and Mop podcast.
Dude, we have dogs. These things are important.
It's important. That's an important thing.
Our listeners probably would appreciate this discussion in full detail of what we've used. Maybe one day we should do a products we like for cleaning stuff. And jot that down. We'll do that later. We do have other topics though today.
Okay, great.
And you already know that. Don't say okay, great, like you don't already know.
Surprise me.
So earlier this week, I called Hannalore because I was like, I need some advice with this client because I got some texts and I was pissed. So between the Friday of the phone consult and the Monday of the lesson, like this client had texted me and was like, you know what? I'm actually not going to read. I don't have time. And this person just got a puppy and I was pretty frustrated naturally because if you don't have time to read, you don't have time for a puppy.
A dog.
Right? Like, and especially, like, because I also worked with her and I was very cognizant of like, hey, I'm short on time too. So I do audiobooks. So I specifically sent her audiobooks because she said that would work better. Right. And so I called her and I was frustrated and I was fuming. And honestly, like there's probably other things bothering me because it upset me a little too much, a little more than it normally would. But it kind of got us on this tangent of like kind of us knowing our value and kind of knowing what clients to accept and which ones not to accept. Because, you know, for some of our listeners who may have been the good client, the best client, or the bad client at some point, right? Like you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And most people assume like, oh, cool. Yeah. Like any trainer will take anybody, but that's absolutely not true. And it's not just skill level either. So it kind of got us on this tangent and Hannalore gave me some really great advice and was like, just tell him to fuck off. No, I'm just kidding. She didn't say that.
I want to hear this really great advice. I would love this because I have found myself in this situation many a time.
Well, I think I'll let you guys. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, she was asking you.
Yeah.
Oh, so my biggest thing is that I really feel that like I don't get along. Let me reword this. Not everybody likes me, right? and there's a trainer out there for everybody that can tolerate different levels. But at this end of the day, like we know what we're worth because of the amount of time and energy we've put into developing who we are and the culture and the community that we want to represent us. Like Boston for the Dogs, I represent kind of like a very niche type of people. The people that come into Boston for the Dogs are like on board and I filter out the people that aren't, So I think like, in my intake calls, I really just kind of talk about what my culture and my community is like. Hey, we are people that do my dog training is a lifestyle. It's not necessarily doing training sessions. So, like that is what represents me and what represents you two is going to be totally different. But knowing that value and like that is the type of person that you are looking for is so important because people start to seek you out because of that, right? Like I am seeked out because I've had people come like, I don't have a community. Like I'm kind of lost. Like I love my dog and I want more for my dog. And like you guys do all these really cool community things with your dogs. And like, that's what I made. So if you guys knowing your value and standing up for that value will bring you the right type of clients. And I kind of like even said, I said, a lot of times I go into lessons thinking I'm going to hate somebody. And then I realized they just didn't know what they didn't know. Mm-hmm. And now I get that like one tagline in my lesson that is like that aha moment. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of just like, how do we communicate that so we can find that peace, So again, knowing your value and remembering that not every client is the right client for you. And then also I think the biggest thing is remembering that the customer isn't always right.
Yep.
And that's kind of like my big takeaway from that.
So that's a difficult one for me to swallow. I mean, I have started to swallow that pill. Mm-hmm. But I grew up, my first jobs were all in the service industry, where the customer is always right. And you were just there to serve the customer. So shifting, and then I also worked for people. So shifting to working on my own, that's something I've struggled with is being like, no, actually, you're wrong.
You're fucking wrong. You're really wrong.
And, I think this can also be twisted on the flip side, right? So we get a lot of inquiries. A lot of people reach out to us and they're like, can you train my dog to do something absurd? And you're like, no, go away. Or talk to this person because they do it better than me or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But I think on the other end, like, I think clients should know their value too. There's plenty of times where I've had clients come to me And like even today, one of my long-term clients is doing puppy class at like 3 different places with one of their puppies because they really want to make sure that she's solid. She can be defensive, just her breed in general. And they're like really frustrated with this one puppy class because it went from like, yay, puppy play to this like intermediate. It's kind of marketed as like a half hybrid, like there's still going to be some social and then it'll start working on obedience type of stuff. It's not meant for 6-month-old puppy. It's meant for like 4-month-old puppies, but they totally mismarketed it. And all the advice that they're being given is basically wrong. Not necessarily wrong, just inappropriate for them given like the skills and the knowledge that they do already have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are about frustrated. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel this way. And sometimes like, yeah, we as humans can feel a little over entitled. But if you're in that situation and you're like, I really don't appreciate what's happening in class, or I really don't appreciate what my trainer is doing, like speak up. You should know your value and you should value your dog. And you have to advocate for your dog in that situation. And I'm not just talking about abuse either, right? I'm talking about just like dumb shit where like you hear a trainer repeat the command 1,000 times and you already know better not to do that. It's like, or they're using the
know
wrong
your value.
Whatever. Yeah. Know your value and value yourself. And if you need to leave and break that contract, break the contract. Because honestly, nobody's going to pursue any kind of litigation over that kind of stuff.
And I think with that even too is that like, it's how do you set the bar and how do you like for yourself, like we don't like every single client that I talk to, I always say, we don't know what we don't know. So sometimes a client doesn't know they're not getting the value until they have the experience of something else. So that client of yours that has 3 different classes that they're going to has 3 different examples of value, right?
Yep.
So how do we, in this weird world of what we're doing, how do you create a standard of the value? It's like, I have experienced clients with inexperienced dogs. Like I wish like I could create a puppy class for advanced humans and new puppies, right? And then have the like new dog, new puppy, new human, you get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Like, it's just like, there are different, but then you also, in the same side of it though, how many times do I get on the phone? I had a dog growing up and I raised it. And I'm like, yeah, but this is different. And this is a totally different dog. Yeah. Totally different dog. You're not training the dog in front of you. You're training like a country dog. This was another conversation I had today. It's about the difference between city dogs and country dogs. Fuck, dude. I mean, yeah, totally. I was talking to my sister actually about it because we had labs growing up that just like never were on a leash and they would go visit the neighbors and that was cool. And now I like freak out if like Layla goes around the corner of the house in a fenced yard and I'm freaking out and I'm that person in the neighborhood. Layla! It's just totally different.
Yeah. And you said something that kind of like sparked me a little bit, right? Where, oh God, now I'm losing it. Hold on. What was it? ADD moment.
Yeah, there's so much that I just said.
No, it was before. Oh shit. Then I just started really picturing like you screaming about your dog going around the corner. Dude. And I was like, usually
I'm in like my silky robe and like no bra. It's a scene.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, I know what it was. It was about, you were talking about like, sometimes you wish that you could have an advanced human beginner dog class, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, honestly, that sounds nice, but sometimes breaking things up too much can be bad, right? However, I think, as you kind of grow your staff and all that kind of stuff, I think it's important that we get good at kind of recognizing those people and giving them outlets and giving them things to do and kind of putting more responsibility on them in class and like maybe even uplifting them like, hey, I want you to come help. I want you to team up with this person, like maybe split everybody into pairs and don't tell everybody, hey, you're the worst, so I'm pairing you with you're the best, right?
Yeah.
Doing things like that and giving them an opportunity to teach. Because I mean, I've heard tons of stories of like people's clients turning into their best trainer that they have. But also being able to differentiate and essentially, like say like, you're doing really great. We're going to do all of this, but hey, you over there in the corner, I want you to do this modified version that's more advanced because you're there. right?
Sounds like every workout I've ever done is the modified version.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like if our listeners, if you've ever felt like you're being underutilized and stuff, then say something, right? Be like, hey, I would like to help, or hey, like, excuse me, my dog's doing too good, or we do this all the time. How can I make this harder? Because if you don't speak up, like, especially if you're in a big class, it's like 30 people or something like that, super easy to get overlooked. And you have to advocate for yourself and for your dog. And if you've said something time and time again, right, and it's just not advanced, well, then maybe you've outgrown that place, and that's okay. Maybe you need to look to the stars.
Yeah. And I think what's really fun, I always make the joke with my trainers. The reason that I spend so much time like learning about is that I have clients that could potentially out-train me.
Yeah.
Like I've created a monster in itself because of how I've created Boston for the Dogs. Again, it's a lifestyle. These are like, I've incorporate training into every single thing I do. And it's so funny because they're on their Instagrams and they're like, I'll like run into them and they'll be like helping their friends. And also like, just like when we were all in school, right? Our teachers would be like, okay, explain to the class how to do this. Sometimes the best way to proof it for ourselves is explaining it to somebody else. And I think that's like, we do that actually in my practice in the park class. Like, I'm like, okay, like I'm going to use Emily as an example because she's always my example and I always make her do it because, she's my best training client. I'm like, come on, baby, come teach with me. I'm like, okay, explain how you do this with your super nervous dog, right? And then I'll go over and I'll ask another client, be like, okay, so how would you explain this with how you do the exercise with your like super reactive dog? So it's like giving all of these opportunities for these people to use those experiences to teach other people. Especially because my classes that I teach, my practice in the park are all levels. Like I have like super reactive dogs that just started training to like CGC, CGCA, CGCU, because I feel like I'm creating that real life situation that those dogs that already know it get to proof around these like dogs that aren't even base, and it's like the most amazing proofing experience ever. And, that's awesome. And that's why we do it. But giving those clients, just like what you say, that opportunity to teach in their class is so awesome.
Yeah. Did you set out to set up your group class like that? Or is that just, it kind of happened that way? Nice. Courtney and I came from a place where we had like beginner advanced. And then we had like reactive dogs, which I no longer believe in the reactive only dog class. I think that's pretty shitty to do, but, you don't know what you don't know until you learn something new. So it's all good.
I think I do it because again, like I love those stable dogs. Also, a lot of my quote unquote stable dogs were reactive dogs, right? They came to me 1 year, 2 years, 3 years ago as these exact dogs that are now in my class. And it's so cool because because of the community that we've created at Boston for the Dogs, like my friend Ann Zoom will just like reach over and be like, hey, like, this is so cool to kind of see where I was. And like, this is Motley and this is what he's doing now. So it's like, hey, I get it. You might be frustrated. You might be having a hard day, but your hard days get you to this. And it's just really cool. Like while I'm teaching somebody else, they like naturally started to like pair up and just like coach each other. And it's like community involvement and it is super fucking rad. I didn't mean to do it. It just became organic and it's awesome.
Yeah. Dude, I bet $20 says you get this question sometimes. Oh, well, I don't want my dog to learn how to be bad from the other bad dogs in class. Or I don't want my dog barking at the doorbell to teach my puppy to bark at the doorbell. What do you tell me?
So you know what? Want to know something? I don't get that class. I don't get that.
Nice.
I think I've gotten it like once. I usually get it is, what if my dog is so bad you kick me out of class?
Ah, interesting.
Because we are known for working with reactive dogs. So everybody thinks their dog is the worst dog that we've ever had. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
So that's actually what everybody's biggest fear is. And
do you have a worst dog you've ever had personally as a trainer? Do you have like a one that was like, wow, that one really, that dog.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one of those, and hilariously, my worst dogs to me are dogs that won't crate train. Mm-hmm. I actually would take a bitey dog over a dog that is like crate destructive.
Yeah.
Or
that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard,
and
especially
like you
because
can condition a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
That is one of the super frustrating because I do board and trains out of my house. Mm-hmm. And I have cats. And so like if you have the potential to break out of the crate, we have a problem because you could break out and kill my cats if I'm not here. And then if you're screaming at me while I'm in bed in the morning, or if I'm trying to take a shower, or, you know, like that's not okay. Like I need a peaceful, quiet home. I don't like it when you're not happy in the crate. That is one of the most frustrating things.
I'm going to be right there with you. And I was actually talking to my training team, who we all work. Like, I love my training team. Like, I don't know if Corey's probably said the same thing. Like, we love our training team. And we really collaborate a lot. And I think that like, if I'm ever like, hey guys, what is the frustrating thing? It's like the list of the 3 dogs that never stop. And, you know, and it's like, you can change the crate size. You can and these are dogs that are like, we're consistently doing crate work with also. So it's not like we're just throwing a dog in a crate and expecting them to be okay, you know, but the crate work is definitely, the crate barking just makes me actually insane. And then I get frustrated, and then I become a frustrated handler, and then I made bad choices, and then I'm not as smooth. It's like this, like, and then it affects the other dogs that I'm working because now I'm fucking pissed. Mm-hmm. And I'm out of spoons.
Yeah. And you can, the spoon theory really applies there.
Yeah, very much so. And I'm sure it's one of those things too.
Spoons it's like, for life, baby.
No
shit.
Oh, that's awesome. For listeners who don't watch, Hannalore just showed us her forearm tattoo, which is a giant ass spoon, and that's awesome. Very cool.
I run out of spoons every fucking day. Every fucking day.
And the other thing too is that like people don't understand is like it's not just we're working on your crate stuff. There's a lot of other mental work that gets done. And so you're doing extra training on top of your normal regimented training to try to get this dog to be comfortable in the situation. And like everybody always points to abuse, but it's like, honestly, some dogs just don't like being contained. It's like some people don't. And like, if they've had a long enough history being pushy buttheads and getting their way all the time and screaming loud enough or injuring themselves or whatever to get out of that situation, well, then guess what? That's a very deeply reinforced behavior. And
I don't know if you guys deal with this with your clients, but my biggest thing, I can't crate train because of my neighbors. I can't crate train because of my roommate. And I'm like, fuck your neighbors and fuck your roommate. Because if you had a baby, right? That's what I always say, like to my clients, if you had a baby, you wouldn't be apologizing to your neighbors for your baby crying in the night. Right. And you have chosen to have a dog and you've chosen to invest your time into that dog. Please crate train, because also I try to explain to people, crate training is like the big job. Like, I'm just going to get a hoodie that says crate your fucking dogs. And the biggest thing is I will all wear them. Like, our dogs need the crate. Just imagine when you send your dog to the vet and they're stressed out.
Especially right now. Especially right now, you can't go into any vet's office. You have to do drop off.
No, you have to drop off. Like, if you have to travel, if there's an emergency, what happens if you get sick and your dog needs to go get fostered somewhere? Like, there are so many what ifs that, like, my dogs, I want them to be as comfortable in the crate when I'm there as they are when I'm not there. Mm-hmm. And I practice. Some people will walk in and they're like, where are all your dogs? I'm like,
in their goddamn crates.
They're in the crates. Like, where else are they going to be? Like, they're not free range running around my house. and they get to rest. They get downtime. They download. And, it's always my big line is that like, it is so important to let your dog decompress and download in their own space, not on your couch, not on the floor next to you. Like, that's not rest. Like, they need rest. So that's, I could talk about this for a long time.
I support this argument.
Same. I mean, there's so many times where I've either like come home from work or just had a day, and Lee's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, stare at a fucking wall. I want you to leave me alone so I can stare at this wall, literally. And especially after a day of like daycare or something like that, I understand why crateless or kennel-less daycares exist. I do. And I think, there is a place for them, right? However, that being said, I think that's skirting the problem, right? Because most of the people that are going to go there are going to go either, if you don't believe in it because of ethics or whatever, I could logically argue all the reasons why. And it doesn't matter because it's ethics versus logic, and those two things aren't comparable. However, if you're just like, well, my dog sucks at being in a crate, so I'm going to go find a crateless thing. Like, yes, now there's a solution for you, but it's not the right solution for your dog, right? Especially if they're just going and getting exhausted. Like, one thing that I try to like caution all of my clients with who do go to daycare is just don't go. Like, the people who go 5 days a week, I'm just like, what the no, pay me to take your dog on like stimulating outings and stuff like that instead. Like, no, that's too much. And they're like, my dog's becoming reactive to dogs. Is it aggression? And I'm like, no shit. Dog is just chaos all the time. They see dogs and they elicit chaos. That's it. There's no in between. Have you seen those daycares that like, where it's more like a cocktail party and every dog is just standing there politely? Like, that shit blows my mind. That looks cool as fuck. I want to go to one of those daycares.
So let's look at it like this, though. Daycares are going to keep us in business.
Yeah, true.
Because
true
we're right. I always say daycares and dog parks are going to keep me in business for life,
especially
right?
Dog parks. Because
I think I heard it from Chad Mackin when I did one of his seminars like 5-6 years ago, and it's like it's stuck with me. And it's somebody else said it, but he said it, and it's. Dog parks are disease-infested fight clubs, right? Like, they are. Like, there's a bunch of people that don't understand dog body language throwing a bunch of overstimulated, over-adrenalized dogs into a mosh pit and letting them figure this shit out by themselves and expecting everybody to get along.
And
right?
sometimes
and then you have
often throwing toys.
I was literally just going to say, and then somebody brings a tennis ball in and wonders why everybody's trying to kill each other.
One time I yelled at a neighbor of mine when I lived in an apartment complex because they were like throwing around a Kong with a resource garter, and the Kong had peanut butter still in it.
Oh my God, this is how you die.
Day. I yelled. This was actually before I was a trainer. And I yelled at them so much, and otherwise I would have given them my card and been like, you're going to need this when your dog eventually starts a fight. Bye.
And then daycare, I always tell them, I'm like, okay, so daycare wasted is a thing, and nobody feels good when they're hungover, ever. Nobody. And I'm like, yeah, your dog is tired, but they're like, there's a difference between being mentally stimulated, tired, like mentally exhausted with a balance of physical than just being like balls to the wall, like open mouth, tongue out, eyes rolled, like, that crazy, like that people are like, look at my dog is smiling. I'm like, oh my God, your dog is on. No. And it's always like, I send my dog because they have separation anxiety and it makes it so that they can sleep in the crate. And I'm like, yeah, because they're so exhausted, and exhaustion isn't a good thing for anybody. But yeah, it is like a big thing. And I think that like, it's really hard. And again, but at the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know.
Yep.
And a lot of those people really, truly, think that they are doing the best for their dog. And I always try to kind of like find that balance.
I started off in daycares and, doing boarding and daycare and kennel tech and all that. And so like, I thought I was doing the best I could with the dogs in front of me.
Lord's work.
Those dogs needed me. They needed me to show up to work and feed them and let them out. They had to pee, And, I didn't know what I didn't know. And as I learned more, I evolved and now I'm here.
And to be fair, there are also good daycares out there that do have nap time and they crate rotate, but they also like monitor and manage, and maybe they even split groups into play styles and those types of things. So it's not like all daycares are bad. That's not what we're saying.
Exactly.
Just to be clear.
We're not. It's the generalized like I call it Gen Pop, like the Gen Pop daycare where everybody goes and plays and, and I think it's just like really hard. And I always feel that a lot of times daycares are opened by dog lovers. And not like dog professionals. And I think that, again, going back to best intentions at play, like they are tired. It's like their own community. Everybody loves it. They have like treats when they leave. But again, like it isn't right. Like a lot of times I see dogs that are in those play groups and those pictures in like local doggy daycares. And I'm just like, if I could just get my hands on that dog, the cool things that I could be doing with that dog. And
or those dogs that like have always gone to daycare since they were a puppy, and then now they're suddenly snapping at dogs all the time, and it's because they're fucking exhausted and tired of everybody's shit. They've had to deal with everybody's shit too much.
Yeah.
My very first professional dog job was working for an insane lady who had been a banker her whole life, but decided to invest in a kennel-free doggy daycare. And it was just going to be glorious. It was going to be glorious. Everything was separated by baby gates. And she knew nothing about dog language. So she hired me because I applied and basically begged for the job. And she was like, okay. And then I was just like, hey, you should maybe do this and this. And just started like, maneuvering the dogs. And she was like, wow, you just know a lot, huh? And I'm like, I guess.
You should probably know at least this much.
You should know this much if you're going to run a dog business. And that was crazy lady. Super crazy.
I feel like we all have had that like first job that we have. Even when we called, like when I called myself a trainer, I shouldn't have done that.
How did you get started? I don't think we talked about that.
Oh, so
do we have time for that story?
I mean, technically our time's up. I was about to wrap up. So we can tell it on the Patreon. So
let's save that for the Patreon. Oh,
if you want to know about how Hannalore became a trainer, the mystery, the suspense. It only costs $3, okay, for a whole month, and you could like load up on all of the content.
I think it's $5. Don't lie to people. I think it's $5.
Okay.
Don't lie.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say that's less than a beer, but then $5 is like.
Not in Austin. $5 is.
Yeah. That's true.
So thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate your support. Hannalore, if people want to get in contact with you, if they're up in the Northeast. Yes, Northeast.
Yep.
And they
New England.
Also, their Instagram is fucking amazing. Plug your shit.
So we're Boston for the Dogs. We're in Boston. Bounce training, structured daycare, and structured pack hikes, which are really awesome. And we do a lot of community stuff. I always say that I'm training my dog so I can go to the brewery with them and they can be invisible under a table. Like, right? Coolest dog in the brewery. You can hit us up on our website, www.bostonforthedogs.com. And that's how you get a hold of us. And again, Instagram is Boston for the Dogs. And we also have our BFTD Training Lab Facebook page, which is super fun, which is really just hilarious videos of what happens at the training lab. Yesterday was a circus, like the weird stuff that happens at the lab. They have a lot of fun. So definitely hit us up on social media. We're super fun, and feel free to hit me up. I love people. Also, I have a Facebook group called Trainers Supporting Trainers, which really is actually I shouldn't have called it Trainers Supporting Trainers because it's really like broad spectrum dog stuff. We really I love supporting people. I love people plugging themselves. That's like a big thing for me. So
hey, Ben, if you got a dog, you're a trainer. Whether you like it or not, whether you signed up for the role or not, you're a fucking trainer now.
It's a lifestyle, baby.
Yeah, totally.
I wish I had Facebook. I wanna be on that group.
It's okay. I'll show you stuff. I'll
Okay,
just be like,
thank you.
Courtney, look at what happened today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Catch you later. Check out our Patreon. Leave us a review. Share. Tell your friends. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. Look at my bun. Just bopping around.
Dude, I got a left wiggle bun.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of yours wiggles. The other one does not move at all.
Yeah, the
amazing.
buns are so